You know, I gotta hand it to you guys. You have a knack for picking out shows that I would really enjoy. Today we're going to be reviewing Star vs. the Forces of Evil, Episode 1A, Star Comes to Earth. The second show after Gravity Falls that members of my viewership have asked me to watch. And this one is still ongoing, unlike Gravity Falls, which definitely interests me. And I don't know if I'm just an easy guy to read, or I have similar interests to my viewership, or it was entirely by coincidence, but once again, just like with Gravity Falls, you guys have picked a show for me to watch that definitely suits my interests. Brief story synopsis. Princess Star Butterfly of an alternate dimension where magic exists is gifted the ultra-powerful magical wand artifact that belongs to her royal family at the age of 14 in accordance with their royal traditions. And her family must be really hung up on these traditions because Star is not a traditional princess and Star is a little irresponsible. This magic wand has such powerful magic that if the evil forces of their world get a hold of it, they'll become nigh unstoppable. And yet Star is not only a bit of a reckless person, but she actively seeks out confrontations with these evil forces so that she can fight them. So rather than send her away to some princess boarding school, I assume it's a boarding school anyway, that is mentioned offhand in this first episode, her parents send her to learn responsibility in a dimension that doesn't have magic like theirs, in this case, our dimension, where Star is treated as a foreign exchange student and sent to live with Marco Diaz and his family and to attend school with him. Marco, in stark contrast to Star, is a very safe kid. He's a very rule-abiding kid, safety-conscious kid, but he doesn't like those labels, so having Star in his life gives him the opportunity to try to break away from that image. And since he does know martial arts, when it's revealed that the evil forces of Star's dimension have a way to Earth and have followed her there, Marco is able to help her fight them off. There's also a little bit in there about Star realizing that she's taking things too far and has hurt Marco's feelings and apologizing for that, which shows us that she's not all about reckless abandon, that she does have some compassion in her, which quite frankly was very welcome because I didn't like Star in this first episode until that moment, but they don't deal with those themes a whole lot in this episode, so I'm assuming that's just framework for later character development down the line. And that's literally all that we got in this episode. It was 11 minutes long. These are 22-minute episodes broken up into 11-minute halves, and so this first specific 11-minute episode was essentially just laying the foundation for the show to come. More interesting than any of the specific story elements here in this episode were the foundational elements for the entire series, the tropes that are being evoked to lay the groundwork for this show. Two of them specifically, and they're primarily anime tropes, which is what I found the most interesting about this. First of all, Star is clearly meant to evoke the image of a magical girl. Think something like Sailor Moon, for example. Even the wand, when gifted her, transforms into the typical Sailor Moon style transformation wand. However, it looks like Star's version of the magical girl is going to be less, ooh, I use my stock-footed magic power to defeat the enemy, and more hands-on nitty-gritty action girl type, which I think is fantastic. Star's portrayal is so non-traditional for a magical girl that I was floored for like the first minute and a half of this episode. But more interesting, I think, than the magical girl thing being a part of this show is the other trope that this seems to be invoking, and that's the manic pixie dream girl. We do get the manic pixie dream girl archetype here in the West every once in a while, but it's not nearly as common or pervasive in Western society as the magical girl has become, thanks to things like Sailor Moon. The Manic Pixie Dream Girl, put very, very briefly, is an eccentric girl character who comes into the life of an almost painfully plain and boring male character, and whose eccentricities serve to improve the life of the male character by changing him in positive ways over the course of the run of the show. Star to Marco is very clearly a Manic Pixie Dream Girl. As early as this first episode, she has already improved his life by helping him to shed that safe image of his a little bit when he helps her to fight the villains. I'm super curious to see where this goes. When you see something resembling the Manic Pixie Dream Girl here in the West, it tends to be in like a romantic comedy or something. Not something that exists over the run of an entire series. Watching this show, it's going to be very interesting to see how closely they stick to the trope itself or whether or not they shake things up. For example, having his tendencies improve her life as well, helping both of them to become more reasonable and balanced human beings, would technically be a way to avert the trope, since the gender dynamic here seems to be in line with the typical portrayal of the trope already. And I definitely do get the sense this is going to be a show that subverts tropes, as I mentioned, the magical girl trope has already been in part subverted by the fact that Star is as much a physical fighter, as much an action girl as she is a magical girl. So assuming that these elements are going to remain for the entire series, I'm obviously making assumptions based on this first episode, but assuming that they are going to remain a part of this series throughout its entire run, already the very foundation of this plot has me interested on an intellectual level. And I will admit that both of these tropes are a bit of a guilty pleasure for me, the magical girl thing more so than the Manic Pixie Dream Girl thing, so I'm already invested in the plot on a personal level as well. So even though this first episode didn't give me a lot of show-specific stuff to talk about, I still feel like I have a lot to think on. And I am definitely looking forward to getting into more of this show. I did not realize that these 22-minute episodes were broken up into 11-minute segments when I first started doing this project. So this week I'm only going to be doing this first 11-minute episode segment. Next week I'm going to try to get 3 up so we can be done with episodes 1 and episode 2 entirely. And then each following week I will be tackling 2 of these 11-minute episode segments in separate reviews every week. They're usually going to be on Thursday. I know this one's not, but they're usually going to be on Thursday. Gravity Falls is still going to be on Friday. It's just that my schedule this week didn't allow for that to happen. All of that said, guys, what did you think of this episode if you have seen it? And if you haven't seen it and you just came to this review for whatever's, did I in any way manage to sell you on this show with my long-winded, incessant rambling? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. Either way, this has been AJ22 and I will talk to you guys later.